What a very great honor it is for me to be here today. Jews of South Africa, and you, the community of Cape Town, you have so graciously opened your hearts. You are an incredible community, and you are led by the most incredible Chief Rabbi, Rabbi Goldstein. Rabbi Goldstein has taken the word impossible and removed it from the dictionary. So I pray, along with you, that Hashem, that God should grant Rabbi Goldstein and his beloved wife and his entire team great good health so that they have the energy to continue leading not only you, but we, the Jews of the world. I'm coming from America, and I have to tell you that I am in awe of you and your chief rabbi and the entire team. Thank you for inviting me. What does it mean to lead a blessed life? What would you do differently? Where would you put your energy? How would you invest yourself to create a life that is beautiful, days that are good? What would you do differently in your life than you do today? 20 years ago, I began teaching Hineni young couples, but every Tuesday night would be reserved for singles. I would go to my mother's class in New York City, where she would teach Torah, and there would be 1,000 singles in the room. At the end of the class, they would wait online, and I would speak to them, and I would try to make a match. One Tuesday night, there were 2 young women who were waiting online, and after I spoke to them, I said to one, "I think I have the perfect guy for you. He's right over there. He's kind, he's good-hearted, he's a mensch, he is sweet, and he has a good job. Would you like to meet him?" And before she could say anything, her friend says, "Ugh, him? He's a Tiwat." And I'm thinking to myself, a Tiwat? I don't know what a Tiwat is. A twat? What's a twat? So I say to her, What's a Tiwat? And she says, "He's a total waste of time." How often do we do that in life? We wrinkle our nose, we flick our wrists, we look at somebody, and we make a judgment call on them. And when we do, a thought from our mind clouds our vision, and we constrict our hearts, and we do not let another to enter. What does it mean to lead and live a blessed life? It means that I open my heart to you. I allow you to enter, and so you allow me to enter your heart. It means that I forge friendships. I create connections of the soul. I create relationships that endure throughout time. To lead a blessed life means that when we create friendships, we're not speaking about friends on a Facebook page where you have 656 friends, but in the middle of the night, there's no one to take your call. It means that all my sorrows become so much lighter, and my joys become so much sweeter because you, my friend, you are in my life. And that is a life filled with blessing. It means that I create a life that is beautiful because I create relationships that endure throughout time. For a husband and wife to grow together, not just as roommates, but we become soulmates. We don't just discuss problems, which car to lease, which bills we need to pay, but we discuss hopes and dreams and visions. And when something is pounding in my heart in the middle of the night, my husband, my wife, they get up and they say, "Don't worry, it's going to be okay because I'm here with you and I love you." That's a blessed life. And what does a blessed life look like for a child? It means that for that child, he comes home from school at the end of the day, and there is shalom bayis, there's peace in a home. He opens the door and he doesn't have to think, will today be a day where there's anger and yelling and the house will be filled with heat? Or will it be very cold and everyone's on their own iPhone, their own computer, no one's speaking to each other? We're frozen. A blessed life means that I love and I am beloved. There's communication, there's compassion, there's apologies, there's forgiveness, and above all, even if we don't agree, there's respect and there's trust. And I know that I'm never alone, because to be alone and to be lonely in life is toxic for a human being. And you can be in a crowd in this room and you can feel so lonely. And you can be in a home with a husband, with a wife, with parents, with children, with siblings, but you can be so lonely. So what do we do? How do we create this blessed life? We are so lucky because we, you and I, we have a spiritual ways. And as I said yesterday in my talk, there was a day that I was giving a speech in New Jersey, and I live in Long Island, and it's a distance. So the taxi driver was taking me, and I noticed that every time he made a turn, it was in the wrong direction. So I finally said to him, "Sir, you're making a left, you need to make a right. You're making a right, you need to make a left." And he turned around and he said to me, "Lady, I follow my ways. Where my ways tells me to go, that's exactly where I go. I don't know about you, but I go with ways." And I was thinking to myself, Torah is our ways. Torah can tell me. Just type in the destination: relationships, friendship, love, parenting, sibling rivalry, how to be a good person. What does the Torah tell us? Moshe kibel Torah miSinai. Moshe received the Torah from Sinai, and he handed it over to Joshua, to Yehoshua, and it became a legacy. And today, right here, right now, we are creating a chain back to Sinai. We are creating an unbreakable bond as we study Torah. And the first wisdom that we receive in Ethics of the Fathers is this: 3 words. You want to live a blessed life? You want to create relationships that endure? Hevei mitunim badin. Be very thoughtful, think. Be very deliberate before you make judgment on another human being. Why do we begin with this? Because we cannot be part of a synagogue, part of a school, part of a community. You cannot be a Torah teacher, you cannot be a Torah student if you are busy judging everyone around you. And you certainly cannot be a husband, a wife, a father, a mother, a child who is respectful, because you are so busy closing your heart to others and judging them. How long does it take to judge another human being? It takes just one moment, and this is not something new that we do. In the book of Samuel, Shmuel Hanavi, Samuel the prophet is told by God, "Go to the city of Bethlehem, Beit Lechem, ask to meet the family of Yishai, and there, when you meet him and his sons and you have lunch with them, you are going to find and anoint the next king of the Jewish people." And so Samuel takes his horn and he fills it with oil and he goes to Beit Lechem and he sees in the distance Yishai and his sons, and he says, wow, he sees the first son. He's tall, he's handsome, he's commanding in presence. He says, this is the next commander-in-chief of the Jewish people. I found him. And God says to him, no, lo, this is not him. Do not look at the way somebody looks, and do not look at their height. Ki mi'astihu, because I, God, have rejected him. Do you know why? And this is something I learned when I was a little girl, and this verse has stayed in my mind until today. Ki adam ro'eh la'ainayim, because man only sees with his eyes. V'Hashem, but God. Hashem yireh la'levav, but God sees within the soul of a human being. And you and I, we need to learn from God. Not to just in a moment strike somebody down. We need to see the heart of a human being. And so son after son after son appears before Samuel, and each time Samuel says, this is it. I met him, the next king of Israel. And each time God says, absolutely not. No, no, and no. And finally, there's no sons left. So Samuel turns to Yishai and he says, can it be? Do you have any more sons? And Yishai says, there's one more. He's a shepherd in the field. I don't know why you'd really want to meet him. Od she'ar katan. There's one more left. He's little. What do you mean he's little? Do you know how old this son was at the time? 29. Do you know who this son was? He was David, the future king of the Jewish people. But when we judge somebody, when we look at them and we think, they become small to us. Od she'ar katan, they're so little. We downgrade. We look at those we love most of all and we say, what do they know? And we start to take them for granted. Like an old, comfortable couch that we just dump on, and we see them as so small. And so Samuel says, bring him here. And Yishai then sent for his son, for David, the one that he thought was so little. And David comes, and he appears, and it says, V'hu admoni, and he was reddish. Im yefei einayim, but he had beautiful eyes. You see, my friends, eyes are the window to the soul. And if you and I ever downgrade or belittle somebody, and we're thinking about it now, what have I done? I've taken someone that I love for granted. How do I fix that? How do I fix the years of judging another person, putting them to the side, rolling my eyes, making them think that they're not important to me? Im yefei einayim. Look within their eyes and see within their eyes to the window of their soul. Because every single human being is created b'tselem Elokim, in the image of God himself. And every single person has an element of godliness within us. And all we must do to see the greatness of another human being is look and try to find the soul of a human being. Not long ago, I received a phone call. There was a man that I knew when I was growing up who was a member of my parents' congregation, and he passed away. My parents' congregation was a very small synagogue, and we were all very close. We felt as if we were one mishpacha, one family, and I was friendly with his daughter. And so I decided that though years have passed, and I haven't seen this woman for maybe 20, 30 years, I would go to pay a shiva call. So I went to New York City, I found her apartment, I sat down in the shiva house, and it took just a moment, and she gave a gasp. And she took her mother's hand, her mother was sitting right next to her, and she said, Mommy, look who's here. It's the rabbi and Rebbitzin's daughter. She came to pay a shiva call. And I looked at her and I said, you had the most beautiful father. He always had a smile on his lips. He always had a good word to say. And he had the most incredible and beautiful green eyes. And she leaned forward and she said, look at me. Look at my eyes. I have my father's eyes. And I said, you too? I never realized. And she said, every single morning, I wake up, I look in the mirror, I look in my eyes, and I remember something that your father said to me under the chuppah. Can I tell it to you? And I said, please, to hear a message from my father after 30 years, something I've never heard before, please. And she said to me, there we were, standing under the chuppah. I felt like we were prince and princess. No one ever loved the way that we loved. I was flying, I was soaring. And then your father said to me, I know that you don't believe it possible, but we never know where life takes us. And down the road there may come the day that you are sitting across from the breakfast table and you are looking at him and he is looking at you and you're thinking, who is this person? I don't recognize him. I don't recognize her. I don't know her face. I don't know his voice. Who is this person? What happened to our love? And at that moment, this is what I want you to do. Don't say a word. Shh. Just look into each other's eyes. Because eyes never change. And at that moment, shh, don't say a word. You're going to rediscover the love that you have here tonight. And you're going to look into the soul of your husband and your wife, because eyes never change. Eyes are the window to the soul. And so, as David stood in front of Samuel, God said, Vayomer Hashem, kum. And God said, get up, Mishi Sihu, and anoint him, Ki Zehu, because this is the one. He has a beautiful soul. How often in life, my friends, do we pass over the Davids? Do we look at somebody and say, he's so weird, she's so strange, he's selfish, she doesn't care about me, this kid is impossible, they're ingrates, why did I get stuck with this family? How often do we say that? Just a second, our sages tell us. Because if you walk around and you keep on judging, your life becomes a minefield and every relationship blows up. And there is nowhere that it is safe for the people who love you to walk, because you are so busy judging and your heart becomes constricted and closed. And the people that you are supposed to love the most, you push away the most, and they are afraid to come near. Imagine that we take to heart these 3 words, Heve Misunim Badin. Be very patient, be very deliberate before you judge a person. So imagine a husband is coming home from work, and his wife is trying to engage, and he's not talking. He doesn't really say much. And they sit down to have dinner, and she's trying again, and he's not answering, he's not responding, and she's thinking, he's so boring. None of my friends have such a boring husband. Why do I have to have this boring husband? Imagine that a husband says to a wife, tonight there's going to be a wedding. Make sure that you pick up my suit from the dry cleaners. And he comes home, and they're about to get dressed, and he says, did you pick up my suit? And she says, I forgot. And he thinks to himself, she's so selfish. She only thinks about herself. I'm always the last one on the list. I can't believe it. Imagine a child comes home from school, and she's in a bad mood. And nothing is good. Supper isn't good. Snacks aren't good. Drinks aren't good. She sits at the dinner table. She's making faces at her sisters, at her brothers. And the mother just sends her to her room and says, you know what? You're such an ingrate. This is how you come home? Now, let's take the words from Sinai. Heve misunim badin. Be very patient. My dear beloved wife, if you would have a window into the day that your husband had, you would see that he had a most terrible day. His deal fell apart. His boss was screaming at him. His clients were not kind. They were angry. His heart is pounding. He's coming home. He doesn't know how he's going to maneuver all this. He's thinking about you. He's thinking about the kids. He's thinking about the family. He only wants to do well. And he comes in, and he's worried. And he just wants you to say, honey, it's okay. Relax. I love you. Stop judging. Start loving. Dear wife, this is what you must think about. And now we go to the husband and we say, dear husband, imagine that you have a window into your wife's day, and the kids, well, they woke up really late, and your son couldn't find his shoes. And then he only found one, and he couldn't find the other. And I'm speaking from experience. And then your wife had to send him to school, in sneakers that were too small. And then your daughter called, and she forgot her report at home. And your wife needs to now take the report to school, and she still didn't even put that cold cup of coffee to her lips. But she can't find the key to the car. And then she gets in, and there's not enough gas. And then before the day is over, she realizes she needs to make dinner, and there's no milk in the house, and there's no ingredients. And she comes home, and it's time to get dressed, and she says, I forgot my husband's suit. And then he comes in and he says, did you pick up my suit? And she's thinking, I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard to be a good wife and a good mother and a good human being. And today, it just didn't go well. I'm really sorry. That's what she's thinking. And she just wants him to say, it's okay. I love you. Stop judging. Start loving. And that child who came home in a terrible mood, let me share with you, my friend, something that a woman that I teach shared with me at the end of a parenting class. She told me that her 6-year-old came home from school, and she was in such a terrible mood. Supper wasn't good, snack wasn't good, exactly as we said. She's sitting at the table, she's making faces, she's kicking under the table. And then the mother takes a book and starts to read to the 3-year-old. And this 6-year-old comes and says, why do you always read to her? Why do you never read to me? You only love her. You never love me. Never. And this mother says, you are so ungrateful. How do you speak like that? Go to your room. And she sends her little girl to her room. And through the walls, she hears her little girl sobbing. And she says to herself, I can't. I don't care. She needs to be in her room right now. And this migraine is creeping into her head. And she said to me that she went to lay down, and as she's laying down and she hears the sobbing from the other room, this voice pops into her head. And she looks at me and she said, it was your voice from our parenting class, and you're saying to me, go to her, go to her. And I'm thinking, I don't want to go to her, but I hear you saying, go to her. And so I do. And I lean in and I look at my little girl and I say, what happened to you today? And she says, oh, Mommy, it was the most terrible day of my life. We had a substitute and the teacher wasn't there, and I kept raising my hand and she wouldn't call on me. And I needed to go to the bathroom, Mommy. And I had an accident and I couldn't sit down all day, and all the kids were teasing me and making fun. And then you sent me to my room, and then she took her little sweaty arms, and she put her arms around her Mommy, and she whispered in her ear, thank you, Mommy, for loving me again. And this woman said to me, if I would not have taken those few moments to just say to her, what happened? What happened, sweetie? I never would have known. I never would have known. And so when we judge, we push people away, we create this minefield. And if we would just take this wisdom and take a step back and think for a moment, we could change our lives. We could change our marriages. We can change our friendships. We can change the environment in our home. But there is one person left that you and I judge most of all sometimes, and we need to think about that. And that one person is ourselves. We judge ourselves sometimes most of all. After so many lectures, I've had parents come over to me and say, I've made so many terrible mistakes. I'm so ashamed. I have so many regrets. I've had a screaming house, a yelling house. I haven't been there as a husband, as a wife. I've been an awful daughter, an awful son. I've been an awful Jew. Why should I come to a Torah class when I've made so many mistakes? I'm so ashamed. When we judge ourselves negatively, we push ourselves away from our mission, from our goal in life, and we don't allow ourselves to flourish and to grow. And we lose our hope for tomorrow. We lose the power of the present, and we're only stuck in the mud of yesterday. And this I'm going to tell you with my entire being, and I believe this with all my heart and all my soul, that every single one of us has within a pintele yid. It's a flicker of a light. It is a tiny flame. Sometimes we wonder if it's still there. It can be just a little ember, but it's there. It's there. And we must only ignite and kindle that little flame for it to become a great fire from which passion grows. Love for each other, love for God, love for our community, love for Torah, love for friends, love for family. It never dies. It's always there. Never doubt it. And never doubt yourself. When I had my second baby, a little girl, my husband and I decided to go on a vacation. And we went to an island called St. Martin, a beautiful island. But I wanted to take some help. So who should I take with me? And I decided to take my grandmother, Mama. My mama was 80 years old at the time. She had a broken hip. She couldn't really speak English. She walked with a cane, but how she loved life. Mama loved life. And to Mama, when a baby would wake up at 5:30 in the morning, it was music to her ears. And so Mama came with us to St. Martin, and every single morning, Mama would walk around the island at 5:30 a.m. with the carriage, and she would sing the Yiddish lullaby that her bubby used to sing to her and that she used to sing to me. And she would sing in Yiddish, Shluffy, shluffy, Mädela, sleep, sleep, my little girl. Tyra vetter lernen, you're going to study Torah. A graced tzadekes vetter vernen, you're going to become such a righteous, righteous woman. And one day, Mama came back to me all excited, and she said, you'd never believe what happened. There I am, wheeling the carriage with the baby, and there's a young man, tall, handsome, he's jogging by me, and he makes a U-turn, and he's with a young woman, and he says to me, excuse me, are you singing a Yiddish lullaby? And I said to him, yes. And he said, I can't believe it. That's the lullaby that my bubby used to sing to me. I haven't heard it for 30 years. Can you sing that for me? And the woman who was standing next to him said, are you crazy? Let's just go, get out of here. And this young man said to Mama, she never had a bubby. Can you sing for me? And Mama said, I'll sing for you, but on one condition. And he said, what? And she said, you must call me Mama. And he said, Mama, would you sing for me my bubby's lullaby? And so Mama began to sing, Shluffy, shluffy, Yingala, sleep, sleep, my little boy. Tyra vetter lernen, you're going to study Torah one day. A grace tzaddik vetter vernen. You're going to become a great and righteous man one day. And when Mama finished singing, he wiped his eyes and he said, Mama, thank you. Thank you for bringing my bubby back to me and for bringing me back to my bubby. And then he jogged away. I don't know whatever happened to him, but this I can tell you. His pintele yid, the spark within, is alive. Sometimes the spark is ignited from a mama's lullaby. Sometimes just from hearing our Jewish name, Maishla, Rivkala. Sometimes from sitting in a room like this and studying Torah together and seeing that we're one family. Sometimes just from seeing the light of a Shabbos candle. But we never lose hope. We never lose hope for ourselves, and we never lose hope for the Jewish people. My friends, we are in this galut, we are in this exile, and our temple has been destroyed for one reason, because of sinat chinam, because of hatred for no cause. We have traveled the four corners of this earth. We've gone through pogroms, inquisitions, crusades, and holocausts. And the only way that we can find our way really home is through ahavat chinam, through loving one another for no reason at all, except that we are one family. To stop judging, to start loving. When you leave here today, make today count. We've created a chain back to Sinai. Look at another person and say hello, someone that you never would have said hello to before. Do a random act of kindness. And when you go home, take a moment. Look into the eyes of somebody you love. Shh, don't say a word. Just look into their eyes. A mother, a father, a husband, a wife, a child, because eyes never change. And when we do this, my friends, we are going to create a home, a relationship, a life that is blessed, a beautiful life. May God bless you, and thank you so much for inviting me here today. I thank you so much. Thank you.